as long as it takes. If Russia chooses not to come to the table, the world must increase economic and political pressure on it until it does. With our European Union and international partners, we will strengthen and tighten our sanctions. And we will also work to increase support for Ukraine. We will put in place the security guarantees that Ukraine needs to underpin any future peace agreement. Ireland strongly believes that Ukraine is part of the European family and that its future lies within the European Union. We will continue to work with our EU partners to ensure its journey towards membership advances as quickly as possible. President, I come now to Gaza, a catastrophe of the most monumental and consequential kind. It is not possible to describe the scale of the physical and psychological suffering endured by the Palestinian people for 2 long and brutal years. Ireland stands in full solidarity with them. We acknowledge those who have worked in the most unimaginably difficult circumstances to preserve and sustain life, to treat the injured, to prevent the displacement and destruction of a people and their rich and irreplaceable cultural heritage. At the heart of this vital effort have been UN agencies and workers, most especially UNRWA. And we remember those among them who have lost their lives. And we pay tribute to the extraordinary bravery of the medics. We honour the journalists who have worked tirelessly and without regard to their own safety to ensure that nobody can ever say, "We did not know." What is happening in Gaza cannot be justified or defended. It is an affront to human dignity and decency. It is an abandonment of all norms, all international rules and law. We are witnessing hunger being used as an instrument of war. Babies starving to death while aid rots at the border. People shot while desperately seeking food for their families. The deliberate targeting and destruction of schools, hospitals, mosques, cultural institutions. The killing of doctors, aid workers, journalists. Dislocation and displacement over and over. We are all witnesses to the immense wrath of one of the world's most modern and best-equipped armies brought to bear on a trapped and defenseless civilian population. Last week, the Independent International Commission on the Occupied Territories called it out for what it is. Having examined carefully Israel's conduct of the war since 2023, as well as the actions and statements of senior Israeli military and political figures, it concluded that Israel is responsible for the commission of genocide in Gaza. Genocide, the gravest of crimes in international law. All signatories of the Convention on Genocide are obliged to act to prevent and to punish it. We cannot say we were not aware. In January of last year, the ICJ put all states on notice of the plausibility of the State of Israel committing genocide in its military operations in Gaza. And the court has been clear. Where state parties are able to contribute to the prevention of genocide, they are obliged to employ all means reasonably available to them so as to prevent genocide as far as possible. As Navi Pilar, chair of the Independent Commission, said last week, the prevention of genocide is not a matter of discretion of states. It is a legal and moral obligation, and it admits no delay. All members of this United Nations must reflect on what more they can do. And I especially call on those who have influence to use it urgently to maximum effect. I call on those who have provided and who continue to provide Israel with the means necessary to prosecute its war to reflect carefully on the implications of their actions and the consequences for the Palestinian people. There cannot be business as usual in the face of genocide. As Navi Pilar has made clear, to do nothing is not neutrality, it is complicity. Ireland has intervened in the South African case at the ICJ. We have recognised the state of Palestine. We are legislating against the import of goods from the occupied territories. We will act to prevent those members of the government of Israel who have been instrumental in fomenting the unfolding disaster in Gaza from entering our country. We will continue to work with like-minded partners across the world to bring this human catastrophe to an end. There must be an immediate ceasefire, the release of all remaining hostages, and unimpeded access for humanitarian and aid workers to Gaza. Those responsible for war crimes must be held accountable. There can be no impunity. We also need to hold to account those responsible for the attack on Israel of the 7th of October 2023. That too was a monstrous war crime. I appreciate the profound and continuing impact the trauma has had on the people of Israel. Hamas, not the Palestinian people, were responsible. Hamas must answer for its crimes. Hamas can have no role in the future governance in Palestine. But no crime, however heinous, can justify genocide. We also need to recognize the crimes being perpetrated in the West Bank. The scale and pace of appropriation of Palestinian land by illegal Israeli settlers. The open backing this receives from the Israeli government. The harassment, imprisonment and abuse of the Palestinian population. The withholding of tax revenues from the Palestinian Authority. It must not be allowed to continue. In its advisory opinion published in July 2024, the ICJ was clear that all states are under an obligation not to recognize as legal the situation arising from the unlawful presence of the State of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory and not to render aid or assistance in maintaining the Palestinian territory. The world knows what drives this illegal activity is a determination to render the possibility of a two-state solution impossible. It must not succeed. A two-state solution remains the only prospect for a peaceful future in which the people of Israel and the people of Palestine can live in peace and security side by side. I welcome the decision to recognize the state of Palestine taken by France, Belgium, Luxembourg, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia and others. I commend France and Saudi Arabia for the leadership they are providing in working towards a political process that can deliver a just, lasting peace and security in the region. They have my full support. President, as it marks its 80th anniversary, the United Nations has never been more necessary. Today's challenges are ever more complex and ever more interconnected. They cannot be solved by any country or region acting alone. The threat to the future of our planet and the wonder of its biodiversity, the need for development, leaving nobody behind, the health and well-being of our people, the protection of our shared cultural heritage in all its magnificent diversity, the stability of our economies and our ability to trade fairly, the immense opportunity of the digital revolution, but also the potential consequences for our shared humanity. The United Nations is not perfect, and it needs to reform to reflect a very different world. I pay warm tribute to the role that Antonio Guterres has played as Secretary General during